Hello, everyone. My name is Sara Gozalo, and I'm the International Manager for Music Labels Technical Operations Teams at YouTube. So today, we are going to speak about all you wanted to know about music metadata. Why? Because I work with music metadata on a daily basis, and I think it's extremely important. So I want everyone to understand what it is and how we manage metadata at YouTube. So what is important and what is music metadata? Music metadata is the information embedded in the audio file that is used to identify the content. And you are like, fine, what does it mean? Well, music metadata is even more simple. So music metadata is everything, every single part of the data that relates to, for example, a video clip or to the audio file. So it includes the artist name, the track's title, composer, some like audio identifiers, the genre, the album name, etc. So you can see in this video without the music metadata, we will not know the artist name or the track name. So we use this in every single part of YouTube, for example. Apart from this, there are some identifiers that I want you to know if you don't already know them. So we have the ISRCs. This is the unique identifier for master recordings, and this allows to identify the audio, the master recording, in case that there are different versions of the metadata. The same happens for compositions. In this case, we will call it ISWC. And also for albums, we have different ones like UPC, EAN, or GRID. But how do we manage this at YouTube? How do we manage music metadata at YouTube? Well, the first thing that we need to speak about is YouTube assets. Why? An asset is the way that we have to store metadata. Metadata about videos, metadata about tracks, and metadata about every single content that we have at YouTube. So a YouTube asset has 4 things. It embeds the metadata, so the data around ownership, so who owns this asset. It has all the metadata around it, so like in this case, like video title, or as we saw before, the artist name. It also has what we call the reference, that is the video file or the audio file itself, and later match policy. And in case that you want to know more about the match policy, we can speak about content ID another day, but it's basically what allows us to understand what we need to do when we find a copy of this video or we find this content in other videos. So we have different kind of assets and metadata for every single type of write on the music side. Music world is a difficult world, and not only that, it's like it embeds like different parts of the industry. So we have the labels, we have the publishers, we have the video makers. So we need to identify every single type of write, and we need to have metadata to identify this and a way to store this. So that's why we have different kind of assets at YouTube. So first, we have the music video assets. And these identify the audio-visual kind of content. So at the same time as any other asset, it has the ownership, it has the metadata. And in this case, it will have the video ISRC, that is the identifier for that video, for that music video. It will have also a match policy and the reference, and in this case, it will be an audiovisual file, so a video file. And this will be, for example, when we have like Christine and the Queen's music video, this will be the kind of asset. After that, imagine that I create a video and I add the Christine and the Queen's track, or she uploads a lyric video. In this case, the audio file, the audiovisual file that we had before will not really it will not represent their rights for this video because the visual side will be different. In this case, we need the sound recordings assets, and this will be like audio files. And in this case, the metadata that will identify these ones will be the ISRCs, the audio ISRCs. And last but not least, we have the composition side. What this means, imagine that I take my guitar and I do a cover of Christine and the Queens. For this case, the audio itself will be different from the original. The video will be different, but the thing that will be the same will be the lyrics and the melody. And this is what the composition asset represents. And in this case, the specific identifier for the metadata, it will be the ISWC. So how do we make sure that every single label send this in a way that all the DSPs, so Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube Music, are able to understand it? Well, we have something marvelous that is DDEX, and it's the music standard. So DDEX is full rights management, is an XML schema. It was created in 2006, and it gets developed every single year. So we add features and we suggest things to be in the standard. So every single label can deliver, and publisher nowadays can deliver this to the DSPs. You can find more information on the DDEX page. This is a quick summary, and you can check all the different components. But for example, in YouTube, this is one of the samples where we are adding the metadata. And I know there is a lot of things in the screen, so don't worry, you don't have to read it. But basically, I wanted to show a sample. And as you can see, we have the album identifier on the top, for example. We have the track name. We have the label name. So we also have the genre. So this is metadata that the labels can send to us, and we will identify and store. And you will be wondering, fine, this is great. I understand what metadata is. I understand what music metadata is. But why is music metadata useful? Well, music metadata is what makes possible to pay artists and composers. Why is this? This is because if not, we will have not a way to identify who owns what and who we have to pay. We need a unique identifier. And this is thanks to the ISRCs and the ISWCs that we were speaking about. And thanks to these, the publishers can actually claim the rights, and the labels can send the rights to us, and we can share this with them. So we are able to do the reports, and we are able to pay artists and composers. And the same happens for any other DSP. The same happens when a track is played on the radio or similar. Like the reports usually contains this music metadata that allows artists and composers to get paid. However, this is where the however comes. Music metadata is a little bit messy. Why is this? Because it's something that users and people were ingesting. They were sending this to us. And it can happen that sometimes it was not totally right, or some ISSs were incorrect, or artist names or track titles. Things can get messy. And this is a problem that we actually have. And the whole industry is trying to fix it. When are we gonna fix it? Well, we are getting there. Step by step, it's getting better every single day. So it's not only that. Metadata is also what makes music discoverable. So it's what makes you find the music that you want. It's what allows us to recommend you the music that you like. So on the recommendation side, you can see here on the screen that when I listen to a track and I click on related, I have some kind of music that I could like. And not only that, but also similar artists. And this is thanks to, in part, thanks to the metadata of the track, but not only that, it's also thanks to the content-based metadata. This metadata is the one that is related to the actual track. So like the BPM, so how fast it is, or the mood. For example, if we want to identify the mood from the track, if it's like happy or sad, we can also identify the key. So these kind of things will give us some indicators that we will use. It's not only that, we also have some recommendations around collaborative filtering. So basically meaning that if I like something and I like another artist, maybe someone who likes one of these one who might like the other artist. This is a really simplistic way of explaining music recommendations. But what I want to say is music metadata is extremely important for this. And without it, we will not be able to do it. It's basically what we used to do when we didn't have these systems. It was like recommending voice by your friend. If you like this artist, maybe you like this one. What they were doing is they had some information in their brain and they knew that they could relate both. So we are trying to replicate that. But it's not only for that. It's also really useful to be able to create playlists and clusters around different moods, genres, or like specific to the tracks, like all you want to know about this specific artist, or all you want to know about this release, or all the tracks that were released on this year. All this is music metadata, and it allows us to create this kind of like clusters that later we all consume. What is more, this is extremely useful for charts. Not only YouTube charts, that is what we can see on the screen, but also for the radio charts and the Billboard charts and all the kind of charts that we have in the industry. Why is this? Because most of the times we aggregate the numbers based on these identifiers. So if something is groundly set up, or we have the ground metadata, we will not be able to do so. So this is something that like sometimes happens, and when we review it, it's like it's a different ISRC or something happened with the composition. So what I'm trying to say here is having the right metadata might influence many things on the releases of the artist. So it's important that we have it correctly ingested. And now that we have seen what is music metadata, how we use this on YouTube, and why it's useful, I want to speak about what's next, what's coming. Like we already said that music metadata is really important, that is a bit messy, and that we are trying to fix it, and we are using it for every single thing that we have on the app, for example, or even when you are watching a video and the next video that appears automatically on the queue. This is based on many things, but like metadata might be an important part of it on the recommendation side. So what's next? What's coming for the music industry and the metadata side? Well, I want to ask you a question. What if we could have a different way of storing content and metadata? What if like technology was advancing in a way that could allow us to do this? Well, this is just a start. These are some news from even like this week. And you can see we are speaking on NFTs. In this case, it can be more like a marketing campaign, or it can be like related to fan engagement. But they are storing content and creating new ways, using new technology to have more ways of exploring this and storing the not only metadata but also content. But it doesn't stop here, because I feel that ownership metadata is about to get a new meaning. What I mean by this, I mean, what if we could store all the ownership metadata on a different way, so there is no way that someone sends the ground metadata to someone else because there's only one unique thing and is decentralized. So there are some labels already and companies already thinking about this idea. So for example, and I'm speaking about as the general music industry, not speaking as anything else, just like a consumer myself of this kind of news. So for example, Warner Music recently Steve Cooper says that the emergence of Web3 is going to further amplify the importance of music labels and publishers. Universal just hired someone to be working with Web3 and Audios. I don't know if you know this startup is decentralizing music sharing and streaming, and it's a streaming service that is decentralized. So there are a lot of movements on the music industry happening right now, and I feel we are in a similar situation to when we were like maybe 10, 12 years ago when we were starting to see more like music streaming services. And all this is related on how we are storing content and how we are exploiting these new technologies. So I feel that all this is gonna come together, and who knows, maybe in like some years we can be speaking about like perfectly structured music metadata, totally correct, and we will have no problem to identify who owns a track, who is playing the track, who is the composer, who is the label, who is the publisher, with just one click. That will be amazing. So this was a really quick intro to music metadata. Well, thank you so much. If you want to know more, please feel free to connect with me at Twitter or somewhere else. So this is my Twitter handle. And yeah, thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.